this was like my, you're live. Yeah,
Yep, you're live.
All right, wow, I expected the screen to look a little bit different. Oh, there we go. Now, okay. Hey everybody, how you doing today? My name is Ross Carmichael. I'm the technical director at Gamut Theater Group in downtown Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And we're going to do some juggling today. This is part 2, so I'm going to go over some of the basic stuff that I went over in the last video, if you were around for that. If you weren't around for that, that's totally fine. You can find it on the Gamut Facebook page and on YouTube at that Gamut page, which you should check out anyway. That's how you can find out all the information about Gamut, what we're doing right now in this kind of crazy time of COVID-19, and what we do on a more regular basis when we're not all staying inside and keeping away from each other. So Gamut Theater Group actually has what's called company housing. Well, that means they have a couple of spaces to house actors in while they work for Gamut Theater. And that's where I live. So right now, I also have Mr. Will Mueller with me today. He is Gamut's PR manager, so he's watching the feed. So when you have questions or comments, anything you want to say or add or find out, go ahead and type that question in, and he'll relay that to me, and then we can get those questions answered. Now, Will also lives in company housing. So we have been around each other since day 1 of the stay-at-home order, so we are practicing those safe practices. We are in our own cluster. So just want to make sure everybody knows that, and we can get started. All right, so what we started with last time was our shopping bags. Now, this is great. These act like scarves, right? So juggling scarves is one of the basic things you can start out with. And it's nice because they float a little bit, right? So you don't have to worry about gravity fighting against you as much. And the plastic bags are nice because most people have those at home. All right, so again, I'm going to breeze through the basics. So if this is your first time and you feel like you're falling a little bit behind, just go ahead and check out that other video, or you can always rewind this one. But we're going to start with one bag, and want everyone to make an X with their arms. That, all right? That is the shape of your pattern, okay? So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start with my right hand. If you're left-handed, you can start with your left, or your right. Doesn't really matter which. We're always going to do this same pattern. So I start low, and I go across my body, and I let go, all right? And then I catch with my other hand. So up, catch. And then it's in my other hand, so might as well do that side. Up, catch. And you see how I get that nice, long, across my body, that diagonal? And that's how we form our X. So if I have 2 bags, I like to start with my dominant hand, so my right, and I'm going to go throw, throw. All right, so sped up, throw, throw, catch, catch. Now, you want to make sure, and it's really tempting to throw and then switch the other bag in your hand, so you're doing a loop like this, but that's not quite what we're going for. Eventually, we can do a pattern that does go in a circle like that, but right now, we want to make sure we're crossing, okay? And what you can do to practice that is just cross it and let it go. Make sure the bags tend to have a life of their own once they get in the air, but ideally they should fall on either side of you, all right? So if we add 3, now the tricky part is starting. So we want to get our first bag into really just our pinky and our ring finger. I like to hold it like that. And then we're going to take our pincers and hold on to the bottom of our other bag. Okay, so we've got 2 bags. And then the third bag is in our left hand. So 3 bags goes 1, 2, 3. You see how we get that nice X pattern? That's really crucial because it means the bag always is out of the way for the next bag, right? So just a little bit of that, just so you can sort of see how it goes. All right, now I like to give the bags just a little bit of a flick so that they sort of stay lofty. But we can go really fast if we want. But that's it. That's scarf juggling. But plastic bags work just fine. All right, so that was the basic. If you like that, if you're working on that, go ahead, keep doing that. We're going to move on to socks. All right. Now these are stand-ins for balls or bean bags. Fun fact: most juggling bean bags are filled with birdseed. So if you get any of them, you want to make sure, especially if you have a mouse in your house, you want to make sure that you store those in like a bag or a Ziploc Tupperware container, and that way the mice can't get into them because they love that birdseed. So we've got our pairs of socks, and same thing. We want to create that X pattern, okay? So if you're just starting out with this, best thing to do is always start with one of whatever item it is and just make it follow that X. Now, when we talk about the X, we're actually following a cascade pattern. That's a juggling term, okay? So go. Now, for some of you who saw the last video, I'd love to know if any of you have improved, if you've gotten up to 3, or if you're feeling stuck at any point. Now's a great time to ask, because there are lots of different things that we do that can get in our own way, but most of them are pretty easy fixes. Right? So again, please ask your questions, leave comments. We've got Will here to answer those or relay them to me. And if you've just recently joined us, a reminder that we are practicing all the safe COVID-19 practices. We are practicing our practices. Will and I live together. We live in the same building, so we are a cluster. So it's just like you at home with your family. You're allowed to be close to them and be around them. You don't have to have a mask on. So it's the same with us. All right, so back to the juggling. We've got 2. We want to create that X again. So again, I'm going to start with my right hand because I'm right-handed, and that's just natural for me. So 1, 2, all right? And it's just throw, catch, catch, throw, catch, catch. Then you want to keep a nice even pattern. And the great thing about just practicing with 2 is that you can make sure that your throws are really nice and accurate. So when I'm making a throw, what I'm thinking about is not getting this, throwing this from one hand to the other. I'm thinking about throwing it to a point in the air, okay? So I picture a square in front of me, and if I were to turn sideways, that square would actually have a little bit of depth, because the juggling items, you want them to stay in the same plane as each other, all right? So when I do this, they're actually crossing over one another. They're not like this or like this, right? So just nice and easy. And I always like, when I'm starting out, to sort of reset, right? So kind of keep your arms at a nice 90-degree bend. See that? Now they're going to go down a little bit and up a little bit, but it's nice to always reset there. All right, now honestly, doing that for a while, just making sure that, again, your tosses, your passes are nice and accurate, because there's this really cool thing with the brain where if your eyes see the trajectory of something in the air, once your eyes see the peak, the pinnacle, your brain can actually track where that thing's going to fall. So you don't necessarily need to watch it the whole time, but you should watch it until it peaks. All right? Because a lot of people, what they want to do is sort of try and watch all of them with their peripheral vision. And you can do that when you get good, but starting out, you want to watch that one thing that's in the air. And do you notice how it really is just one in the air? Now I've got it nice and slowed down so you can see that. And actually, I brought these these weighted exercise balls. I got these because some juggling tricks require you to move really fast, and if you've got more muscle, you can move your bones faster, right? So they are these. They're nice and big, so you can see the visual better at home. Now these are actually, each of these is 8 pounds, so it's a nice little workout to consistently juggle them. I'm working up to be able to do both in one hand. We'll go over that in a second. So again, this is going back to 2, so you can see that nice X pattern. See how I'm throwing to those points in space? And what I like to do, once I get comfortable with my passes, is switch hands. So I'll go right, left, right, right, left, right. And if you've gone up to 3 and you're having trouble, just something, every once in a while your left hand throws it out in front of you or back behind you, you can always go back down to 2 items or 1 item and just really reset and get those passes nice and consistent. Okay, so I talked about 2 in 1 hand. You can do this with scarves, balls, with just about anything, really. So 2 in 1 hand, right? I've got 2 things in 1 hand. And there are a couple different versions of this, but I think the easiest, the best one to start out with is called rolling out, okay? So I'm going to show you for a second. It's called rolling out because the items are moving in a pattern away from my body. So rolling in would look like this. Rolling in can be a little tricky because it's a lot easier to overthrow it when you're rolling in, whereas rolling out, it takes a lot of work to get it really far away from you. Like I couldn't do it right there. So this is really juggling. Now, I know when I was little and even when I was just kind of trying to figure it out, I would go like this, right? And that looks pretty close to juggling, but it's not quite the full thing, all right? But 2 in 1 hand, there you go. And the other shape you can do, the pattern, is called columns. So that means that each of the 2 items stays in their own path, in their own column. And they just go straight up and straight down instead of in a circle. Okay, so columns, something like that. You see how the items never cross paths with each other? Ideally, they're moving in parallel lines. All right, so that's columns and rolling out. Now these are all great things. Everything with juggling requires practice, right? Just like most things. Some people, it comes really natural to them, and some people need to practice more. I actually am one of the people who needs to practice something a lot before I get it really, really perfect. And you can actually get perfection, at least moment to moment with juggling. Every once in a while, there's going to be something that goes wrong. Maybe you get distracted by something or you zone out, because once you get really good at this, it is actually really relaxing, and you don't have to focus on these things flying through the air. You can think about other things, and it's actually really nice. It's one of the things that does, if I have something that I can't quite figure out, a problem I'm working on, I need a solution, then I might juggle whatever I have, whatever's around, and just sort of let my brain detach for a second. There's this crazy thing that this action does actually activate different parts of your brain. So it's a great way to sort of shake things up. Now, the other tricky thing is that you can do all of those, all the 2 in 1 hand with your less dominant hand. It's a lot harder. But I was told by my juggling coach and a couple people who helped me along the way that there's this really cool thing where if you learn a new trick, a new style, first with your less dominant hand, that your dominant hand will actually pick up the patterns and the movements. So if you start with your less dominant hand and you've never done this thing before, and you get it with that, and you go to switch and do your other hand, your dominant hand will have picked up some of the things, which is really cool. I think that's amazing. But if you learn it first with your dominant hand and then try and switch over, your less dominant hand won't have picked up those things. Your brain will know, but your arm won't. And it can be really frustrating sometimes when you know a trick and you know you can do it, but one arm just doesn't do the thing that you're trying to get it to do. But don't worry, it just requires more practice. And dropping is learning, right? So if you're juggling and you drop, that's fine. Dropping is learning. I always have to remind myself that. Okay, Will, what time are we at?
We're at 15 minutes.
Oh, 15 minutes, great. All right, so we're at about our halfway point. Mm-hmm. So now would be a great time if you're watching and there's anything that you have a question about or have a comment about, maybe something you're struggling with or that you succeeded at. I would love to know if you started juggling either last time or this time or have been trying to learn and this unlocked something. That would be amazing. Let me know. I'd love to start that conversation.
Melissa Nicholson does say that it's great to see you being creative.
I do like being creative. I know for a lot of us that are in the arts and performing arts, especially when our job revolves around having groups of people around us, whether we're performing or watching someone else perform, that this has been kind of a hard time. But there are lots of ways to be creative at home. I personally don't get a lot of satisfaction or enjoyment from like drawing and coloring. I'm not very good at it, so a lot of times I get frustrated. But that might be perfect for you. For me, juggling is a great outlet because there are all kinds of little nuances and tricks and different variations. I actually have two students who go to our Gamut Theater Academy who, before this all happened, they were starting to learn how to juggle. And we have a Zoom meeting once a week where we keep up our juggling skills. We practice, we bring new tricks and new skills to the table, and it's a lot of fun. It's one of those little bright rays of sunshine amidst the week. So shout out to those two. And actually, I'd love to shout out to Michael Karras, who was my juggling coach way back when. He is amazing. So if you ever see any of his stuff, he's on YouTube. Check it out. He's incredible. And Food Play was actually the first company that I had to learn to juggle for. And they gave me all the tools and the skills to be able to come in and learn how to juggle. So shout out to those. All right, so there aren't any questions or comments. There was mention of bringing a kitchen utensil. All right. Now I'm gonna go with this turner. All right. Don't call it a spatula because I believe that a spatula is a very specific other thing. And that this is a rubber scraper because, again, not a spatula. But if you call these things spatulas, I won't hold it against you. All right, so we're going to approximate juggling clubs. There's clubs can be a little intimidating, especially because they are a more complex thing. So with bags and balls, there's not a lot of variables that go into those things flying through the air. Yes.
We just have a shout out from Adam who says, "Hi, Mr. Ross and Mr. Will. He just finished his a math test."
Oh man.
So that's
I can't imagine.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess school's back in session.
Yeah.
Well, hey Adam, I'm glad you're watching. I bet you nailed that math test. And now you get to celebrate with a little bit of juggling, maybe.
Yep.
All right. So, like I said, juggling clubs, it is a little bit more advanced. It is a little bit more complex because there are multiple variables that when you tweak one, the others have to shift as well. All right. So we're just going to start really basic. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, or just if I had something, a pencil, a stick, a bat, I don't know, anything, anything that's sort of shaped like this, I would flip it around, right? It's fun. You see how many times you can get it to flip before you catch it, that kind of thing. Well, that's a great start to juggling clubs. So what you'll notice is I'm still following that X pattern, okay? Throw it across my body and catch it with the other hand. Now, it might be hard to see. I'll turn sideways to see if that helps. But it's only flipping over once. So I start with the handle, it flips towards me, and then I catch it with the handle on the other side. And that's true for both sides, right? So one flip, one turn of the turner. Ooh, drumsticks. If anybody's a drummer out there, I guarantee you've done this. So you're already way ahead. I bet you'll be able to juggle clubs in no time. All right, so that's one. Now, breaking down the different variables, there are three things to consider. One is the spin, the rotation of the item that you're juggling, right? The other is how high it goes, in space, and the other is how far side to side it moves, okay? So with balls, we just have to think about height and side to side, and front to back a little bit, but that's true for this as well. But I don't like to count that because ideally we're not throwing it forward or backward, it's in a straight line back and forth. So when I just naturally do this, it kind of goes to a consistent height, and the turner always ends perfectly parallel to the ground. That's sort of my barometer for like a nice consistent toss. It shouldn't whack your hand. There should be a nice soft sort of landing as it comes into your hand. But if I throw higher and I keep the same spin, what essentially will happen, if I throw it high enough, I will get a double spin, which is probably going to be really hard to see in here, but I'll see if I can give it a try with this. So let me just think about my even. Okay, that's how much spin I give it. So same spin, but twice the height is a double pass. Now, similarly, I can give, if I double the spin but throw it the same height, I can get a double pass that's lower, but it's going to spin a lot faster. That was only 1.5. There we go. So you can see how shifting one variable, if I throw it a little bit higher and spin it a little bit less, I might not get even half a turn. So it's really easy. As soon as you shift one thing, it's hard to shift all three at the same time. So shift one thing and figure out whether or not you succeeded at that one thing. If you needed to make it spin faster and it spun faster, success. You achieved what you set out to do. Now, the next thing is going to be keeping that consistent spin and then shifting your focus to how high it's going, or how far it's going. So I'm going to try with 2. I'm going to use my rubber scraper because I find that it's got a nice consistent weight to it, especially with clubs. I like something that's got a little bit of weight, a little bit of heft to it. You can really feel it land in your hand. Whereas if anybody's using a wooden spoon or like especially a plastic spoon, that might be really hard because it is so light, and so you might find that it bounces out of your hand. Especially if your throw isn't nice and not perfect, but you want to make sure that it's actually landing in your hand.
Aaron Schellenberger.
Bounce away. Oh.
Aaron Schellenberger would like to know how to juggle something that's on fire.
Oh, well, if you want to juggle something that's on fire, always make sure you don't catch the fiery end. Okay? So same with juggling torches, juggling knives. If I was juggling this wooden spoon, I could catch either end, right? But if I'm juggling something that's sharp on one end or on fire on one end, it's the same thing. You just want to make sure you catch the end that's not on fire. But I would not recommend that to anyone but a very skilled juggler, and making sure that you've got all the safety precautions in place, somebody around with a fire extinguisher and adult supervision. Do not try that at home unless you're amply prepared. I've never juggled torches or knives, although I want to, because I'm a pretty proficient club juggler, and it's basically the same sort of mentality. All right, so 2. Again, same thing as scarves and balls.
Oh, we have a piggyback question real quick.
Oh, all right.
I've seen you juggle hammers before. What are the most obscure or difficult objects that you have juggled?
Well, hammers are tough because they've got so much weight on one end. So when they turn the corner, they really slam down because of the lever of it and where all the weight is. So those are tough. You gotta. Once I learned how to juggle, I realized that I saw the world as things that you could juggle or things that you couldn't juggle. So, for example, a floor lamp, so a tall lamp, that would be really hard to juggle. But pens or pencils, you juggle those. Video game controllers, phones, you can juggle those, mugs, just about anything that you can fit in your hand or that is not too long or too big. One of the first sort of odd juggling tricks that I learned was juggling a basketball, a wiffle ball bat, and a juggling ball. So you got 3 very different sizes, different weights, and you have to figure out how each of those things needs to be thrown in order to keep everything together. So maybe I'll see if I can get 3 odd things and show that. But if you noticed, I've been going back and forth with my 2 kitchen utensils. Now, certainly, I'm pretty good at this, so I'm keeping it nice and close to me. They're not going everywhere. I'm catching them most of the time. But if you at home are dropping a lot, which is totally fine, you're learning, that's expected. You might want to make sure you have a decent amount of space around you. Probably should have said that right off the bat. But I'm sure you figured that out pretty quickly. I practiced outside, and especially today is a beautiful day, so it could be a great day to practice outside. But if it's really windy, that can affect things. That will make them move in the air in unexpected ways. But that's why I want to make sure nobody's got sort of a metal turner or, juggling a frying pan. That would be cool. I'd have to practice that. So yeah, those are, I've tried juggling with different things. Foam and phones and pillows. It's tough because you have to decide whether you're going to, something like a pillow, you could spin like clubs or like rings, or you could try and sort of think of them as big bean bags. But they're hard because they're so big. These weighted juggling balls are they're odd mostly just because of their weight. They require a lot of focus, and the thing that you, especially with bigger or heavier things, when you catch it, you really have to kind of use your body and really cradle it because it can be hard to just flat palm catch it.
Speaking of things that are 8 pounds and come in cradles, Aaron Schellenberger asks, is it safe to juggle babies or pets?
Oh, you should definitely not juggle babies or pets. I can't even imagine how challenging that would be and dangerous for them. Certainly I had a guinea pig when I was little, and while the size is right, I would not recommend that. It would be very scary for you and for them. We love our pets. We don't want to put them through that sort of trauma. How much time do we have, Mr. Will?
We are at 29 minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay, so let's see if I can find 3 random things, and we'll see if I can juggle them. All right. Mr. Will is helping. Okay. Ooh, we've got a ruler.
A ruler. It's a little bit.
Could be hairy. Okay. Now that's hard because it's really light, so it's hard to, depending on how you throw it, it either fights the air or cuts right through it.
What about?
All right. Okay. We got a light little cat toy ball. It's got a bell. You hear that? And let's see.
A mixed berry.
Ooh.
Bar.
All right. Okay. A snack bar. Okay. So we've got a ruler, a cat toy, and a snack bar. Now, I've never juggled these before individually or together. So I'm going to take a second and just sort of see the weight and how each of them flies. So I'm making notes about how I have to catch. That's going to be tough. What's the best way to throw it is, whether I'm flipping it or just sort of letting it fly through the air as is. Okay. Let's just start. Okay. There we go.
Oh.
All right. We got one pass.
Hey.
Let's see if we can do a little bit better second time around. All right.
Woo!
All right. I'm as surprised as you are. Hey, there we go. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this time. If you are working at home to improve your juggling, that's awesome. Please check out Gamut's Facebook page, like this video, subscribe, follow. You can find out all the information that we put out. We're working on some very fun things to bring to you in the following weeks and months. And then once all this is over, you will have all the information for our regular programming. We really do things for all ages. If you did like this video and you have the means, would like to, there will be a link to donate. Please feel free to do that. Everything that you support, offer us support, we appreciate very, very much. Really, any amount helps. So thank you for that. And stay home and stay safe. See you guys.
Boom.